Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your Burstner Ixeo. So it's a 728G, G meaning garage to the rear there. So based on the Fiat Ducato, sorry about this noisy fan next to us. So chassis plate and all the sort of colour, paint codes and all that sort of stuff just here. So you've got the golden white colour, which is 506. The gross weight of the vehicle is 4.5 tons. And then on the left hand side we've got your washer fluid, power steering fluid, engine coolant and brake fluid next to that, all accessible from the top by taking off this little cover here with these three caps. The engine oil filling point is just there on the top, and your dipstick for that is just there below that. Over on the right, the only thing you really need to know is that to jump start the vehicle, you've got a positive terminal just underneath this little cover here, and an earthing point just here. Alright, so that's actually your Fiat made jump starting point. On the near side, so the passenger side, we've got your bonnet release handle just inside the passenger door. And under this seat is your EBL 99, which is your power supply unit for the vehicle. Burstner are forever using those electroblock sort of power supply units. Diesel filling point just inside this little cover here, which is all colour coded up obviously. This cupboard just here is quite important. So you've got, once you've opened it up, you've got your freshwater tank just here. So you fill the actual freshwater tank up from this little point here. You can see inside there, pipe going down to the water pump, which you can just about see there. So that's your freshwater filling point. You can take this cap off to clean the actual tank out. The freshwater drain off is just by turning this little handle here, and your electric hookup point is there as well. When you've got the electric hookup plugged in, you can run the cable down this little gap here and still shut the locker and completely lock it up, but it means that nobody can come to it and take it out. You've then got these two little bits here. If you lift either of these two up, basically water's going to come out directly underneath where it is. So one of them is your Aldi heating or the water drain, so for the hot water, and the other one is basically just like a pipe drain. So if you wanted to drain the system out, lift both of these two up and it'll drain all the water out onto the floor. You've then got this thing here, which is to help you drain out the waste tank. So the waste tank drains out by putting this handle on and then twisting whichever way. So it must have been open already. So there you go, you just basically put this on here, twist it to lock it, twist it to open it, and that is how you drain out the wastewater. Next door to that is your Aldi heating vent. So I've got the Aldi heating on at the moment, not the heating but the hot water, but I can still feel hot air coming out through the bottom of this vent just here. And then the last two things on this near side are these two vents just here. They're both to do with your fridge. So, you know, if you ever needed to get to the back of the fridge for any reason, which you shouldn't do really, then that's where you have to go for that. But like I say, you shouldn't have to do that really. So if we carry on to the offside now, which is where the majority of the bits and pieces are. Just inside the driver's door, I will point out as well, you've got the heated seats in this particular model. So that's on the side of this seat here. It would have been an aftermarket thing, as in Burstner would have done it at their factory. So that is there. I'll run you through the cab in just a minute, because again, there's quite a few bits and pieces to show you in there. So you've got the awning light just there above the door. This is the extra wide door model. So you've got loads of room to get in and out of there. The awning light comes on with a switch just inside this door here, which I believe this one just here, look. So that'll turn that on. So that's your awning light there. The idea is wind the awning out, which again, color coded to the particular vehicle, wind it out, and then you can have light underneath there. Next door to the door, you've got your external hot and cold water point. So put your hose point in there and you've got a switch for that. So there's your hot and cold water. You've then got your toilet cassette locker below that. So the toilet cassette, you've got a freshwater flush, so you will need to make sure that you've got water in the fresh tank if you want to flush this toilet. I will just point that out. Super easy to use. All you need to do is lift up on this little orange tab, and then the whole thing will come out towards you. You can then take the entire thing out. The only things you need to know is you drain it out from here. So you just basically take this cap off and drain it out from there. When you're physically draining it out, you should be holding the little yellow or orange button at the back there to help you drain it out. And the last thing really is you've got this rubber seal just here underneath this little cover. If you can keep that lubricated with some kind of silicone lubricant, you'll save yourself a lot of money and hassle, because it won't start sticking up and getting trapped. So a little bit of silicone lubricant on that rubber seal, and you shouldn't ever have to replace it. Next up, we've got the external TV socket. So you've got continental style plug there, and a couple of other bits. There's a 12-volt socket there as well, and your aerial sockets. So again, that's more of a continental thing, to be fair, because it is a German built vehicle. Next door to that, you've got the external gas point. So again, this is what you call your barbecue point, and the idea for that is having the awning out, which will come out a fair way, pegging the legs down. Then you've got your gas point, so your barbecue point there, external water, TV. You've got it all out here, including the awning light as well. So having barbecues, people over, that sort of stuff, that's kind of the idea with it. So you've got an absolutely massive gas locker. To me, it looks like you could probably fit 13 kilo bottles in here if you wanted to. At the moment, you have just got the 6 kilo propane, which I will do up with the straps in a minute. But basically, all you need to know, if I just climb in, all you need to know is that anti-clockwise round to the left turns the bottle on, clockwise round to the right turns the bottle off. Make sure that you turn these bottles off before you start driving every time. And also just know that this here is your, this one here and the one at the back is the ventilation. So they're what you call a dropout hole. So because LPG is heavier than air, if it does leak out from anywhere in this locker, it will go down these holes. So it's always really important. Don't sort of park right over any sort of drains and all that sort of stuff. But mainly just make sure that you don't cover these up with anything. So don't start filling this locker. You're actually not supposed to put anything in this locker apart from gas bottles. So, and I would definitely recommend that. So I just thought I'd point that out. I'll leave that on for the minute because I've got a few bits working inside at the moment. In the garage at the back, absolutely massive garage, hence the name of the vehicle. You've got your carpets in here and a few extra bits and pieces to make up beds and things like that. The external water point, the bit they actually plug into it, the shower point, is just there. Your steady winder is this one here, and your awning winder is the one next door to that. So as for the garage though, I think that is about, there's not much to show you as such. It's just that just showing you that's what it is. So tow bar's being fitted at the back, nice and clean. So I think we're about ready to show you what we've got inside. So I'll just clean my feet off because it's just been cleaned. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you around the cab, because I've got a tendency to forget to do it. So it's based on the automatic, and as I said, it's a Fiat Ducato. There's not many extras that you can get for these that this particular one hasn't got already. So from sort of the Fiat point of view, you've got the cruise control from this little stalk just here underneath the main indicator and light stalk, so you can use that whenever you want to. The automatic gearbox obviously is a huge plus, bearing in mind how difficult it is to find automatic motorhomes in general. Just quickly explain to you how to use that. It's essentially what it is. The reason it's not got park or anything like that on it is because what it is essentially a manual gearbox with what you might call a robot or an electronic shifter. So all the time that you're using this, if you're not in drive or reverse, you're in just neutral. So it's really important that you need to use this handbrake. So if you put it into neutral and don't put the handbrake on, you will roll, is the point I'm trying to make. So when you're in neutral and you want to be parked up, you have to use the handbrake. Other than that, it's a case of literally pulling down and letting go will put you into drive. If it comes up on the screen up there with just a number, so if it just comes up with 1, then it means you're in manual mode. If it comes up with a 1 and an A next to it, it means you're in automatic mode, and it will just drive you off, and you know, you change through the gears. If like I said, if it just comes up with a number and you drive away, then all you need to do, it's not the end of the world, all you need to do is change the gears manually like this. Just go up the gears by pulling down, or down the gears by pushing up. So it's up to you how you want to drive it, but if you want to change it from manual to automatic, or automatic to manual, all you have to do, press to the left just the once, and that'll switch between the two. Reverse is pull over to the right and down, that'll pop you in reverse, and then all the way back up to the top there for neutral. You've then got the reversing camera up here, all nice and neatly fitted. Nice good sized Pioneer double DIN head unit there as well. The air conditioning switch on the newer style heating system there, heating controls, nice and easy to use. You've got some USB sockets, or a USB socket there, and a 12-volt point next to that. Cup holders down there, and a few bits to do with the cruise control, and I think this might be, I can't remember what that one's for. Again, I think it's to do with the cruise control again. I will have to double check that, but you've then also got a switch over here that says radio navi. So basically when you turn this on with the ignition off, it should bring the radio to life. There you go. So that means that essentially it's going to be powering the radio via the leisure battery, so that you can use this radio when you're parked up without the engine running, without draining out your engine battery basically. So not something that I would recommend using very often, because you know, the more you use battery stuff, you know, the more likely you are to run it out. But if you are, you know, if you really do want the radio on in the back end, you can just do it from there. You've then also got the electric adjusting mirrors, so you choose your mirror and then move it like a joystick, and your electric windows. I know I already pointed it out, but you have got the heated seats. Let me just double check that the other side's got it as well, because I'm not sure. Yes, it does. So that was the cab. Right, I'm just going to open up a window. It's quite a warm day today. There we go. All right, so what I'll do is I'll start at the control panel, because that's probably the most relevant way to do it. So as soon as you walk in, you've got this really nice white control panel above your head. You've got a main on and off switch just here on the left hand side, which just brings it all to life. These other two on the left hand side are battery level testers, or voltage testers. So the one at the top is testing the leisure battery voltage. So if I press and hold on this, it should tell us the voltage there on the left, 13 volts, so that's absolutely fine. In fact, that's really good. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a solar panel on the roof. And the one at the bottom is showing us the engine battery voltage. So same again, 13 volts. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if not only has it got a solar panel, but both batteries there being at the same voltage tells me that the solar panel's powering both leisure and engine batteries. So all the time that there's sun outside, both batteries are being charged up. You've then got on the right hand side your fresh water level. So got about a quarter of a tank of fresh water, which we know is true because I've just physically seen it in the tank on that locker outside. So if you're not 100% on trusting that, because they're not always 100%, so if you're not 100% sure on that, you can just go outside and physically just look, you know, see the level on the tank there. The water pump is on at the moment because it is switched on, and you can see it's lit up there. It's a 12-volt submersible pump, which means that the pump will not do anything at all until you physically lift a tap and the micro switch inside the tap tells it to. Whereas a lot of other vehicles, a lot of sort of British built vehicles, will have what's called an inline pump, which works on pressure. So it'll only ever turn itself off once it's got to pressure, which is fine. Apart from if you have a leak somewhere, when you've got an inline pump, if you've got a leak, you know, you've really got a leak. Whereas with a submersible pump, because it only actually gets the pressure when you lift the tap up. If there is a leak somewhere, it won't be half as sort of prominent or bad as it would be if you had a inline pump. But that's, you know, by the by, really. They're all different. So that's the water pump switch, that's on, and the one at the bottom here is showing you the wastewater level, which, because I've shown you outside already, it's empty because we turned the handle there. It's showing you up absolutely empty, nothing at all. So that is the control panel. Once you've turned the main on and off switch on over there, it will then give you access to anything 12 volts. So all of your light switches should come to life and turn all the lights on. You should also then have ignition at the cooker, power at the fridge to enable you to do whatever you need to do over here, which I'll show you in a minute, and obviously all of your heating stuff over here, which again I will sit down and show you how to use in a minute. So absolutely tons and tons and tons of storage in this van, and I mean a lot. You know, under every seat there's just storage everywhere. Even this little thing over here quite smartly lifts up and away, so you can store things under there. Yeah, I mean, being a Burstner, nothing in this van has been done cheap. Everything's been done to a really nice high standard, and, you know, to be honest, it's just exactly what I would expect from a Burstner. Right, so the electric drop down bed above our head at the moment, the way you use that is you've got this Project 2000, which, by the way, Project 2000 have been making steps and beds and motors for things for absolutely years. You know, they've been making them in even sort of like the 90s vans and things like that. So, you know, this kind of thing is sort of tried and tested, if you like. So when you turn the key off like that, the lights will go out, which will then mean that this button will not do anything at all. So if you take the key out, take it away, it means that kids can't mess about with it, basically, I think is the idea. So once you turned it on, you will then be able to press and hold on the down button, which will then bring the bed down. What it does, it gets to a certain point and it will stop until that part there has gone all the way up. All right, so once that's gone up, we can press it again, and it will get so far before you have to lean the seats down. All right, but I'm not going to do that just because I want to show you, you know, I just want to show you it working, basically. I don't need to get it all the way down. So yeah, that's, you know, all there is to show you, really. Not much else to it. It's just, I'd like to show you it working. And if we go back up now, I will also point out that all beds, all electric beds, take longer to go up than they do to go down. There's just so much more, obviously when it's coming down, if anything, it's just relieving itself of pressure, of strain, and when it goes up, it's obviously having to drag the bed back up. So just bear that in mind. It will always go up slower than it comes down, but it will get to the same point again. Part of the front will come down, so I've let go of it now. When that stops, we can go up again, and it will just stop when it gets to the top. There you go. So that is how you use the bed. Couldn't really be much easier than that, if I'm honest. The bed goes really nicely up into this little groove here, and even when you're still on this slightly higher point, I mean, I'm 5'9", and I know it's not exactly tall, but I'm not, you know, not anywhere near the top there with my head, so loads of headroom in there. A lot of the drop down beds, to be fair, you know, especially the electric ones where they've got to have the motors and things like that, a lot of the time you feel a bit cramped. You know, you can feel like the van's kind of quite short, but it's not at all in this one. So again, just been well done. Right, so in the kitchen area, what you've got here, you've got the standard mixer tap there, so you've got hot to the left, cold to the right. First thing you want to do, if you're going to be using the hot water over here on the Audi system, there is just one thing that you need to do before you do that, and that is just this. Putting the tap on like this to the hot side, and just making sure there's no air coming out of this tap, which I'm quite happy there's not. So I'm going to turn it off, and that's it. That's all you have to do. As long as you've done that and proven to yourself that there's water coming out of that tap on the hot side, you can know for an absolute fact that the boiler is full of water. If the boiler is empty of water, one, you won't get any water coming out of that tap, and two, you shouldn't be using the boiler, because if you light the boiler up to try and heat the water up but there's no water inside of it, it's exactly the same as if you put a kettle on, turned it on to boil with no water inside of it. It's exactly the same as that. So it'll overheat, it'll do whatever it does, and you'll be forking out for a new boiler, which you obviously don't want to do. So really important, just make sure that you've got water in that boiler just by doing that on the hot side. Obviously, first things first, if you don't get any water coming through there, first off, make sure your pump switch is on, and second, make sure you've got enough water in the fresh tank. But once you've done those two things, if there's still no water coming out of there, you then have to look at the water cupboard that I showed you on the other side. Make sure both of those drains are down, and that's it really. So that is the tap. You then got the 3-burner hob. So I don't ever really run through these, to be honest, because they are what they are. It's just a standard gas hob really, just like any household one. Yeah, no, it's no different at all to any household one, to be honest. The only thing that I like to mention is that you've got a thermocouple on these, which is that little prong of metal at the back. But even every household cooker has that, apart from if it's really, really old. All that does really is it senses the flame, so you could call it a flame failure device or a flame sensing device. And all it does is when the flame's lit up, it senses the flames there and allows the gas to carry on coming through. If it senses that the flame goes out, it will turn the gas off so that you can't fill the van up with gas. And in fact, every single gas appliance in this whole van, and every gas appliance at every motorhome on this site has got a flame failure device or a thermocouple. So the fridge has got one, the Audi heater's got one, everything. You have also got, under the cooker just here, you've got your gas manifolds. So you've got one for each appliance. So you've got the boiler here, the 3-burner hob, is that one there, fridge, and the oven. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any specific appliances, you do that from there just by turning it 90 degrees so that it's facing away from the pipe that it's going to. The only reason you would ever need to do that, or would ever want to do that, is if you thought there was an issue with an appliance. You don't need to turn them off every time you get out of the van, and you certainly don't need to turn them off every time you put the van in storage or anything like that. All you need to do, if you're getting ready to lock it up for a little while, all you have to do is turn the gas bottle off. That isolates everything even further back before this. So turning the bottle off completely isolates all of these. And so like I said, the only reason you would ever need to turn one of these is if you've got a problem with an appliance specifically. But that's what they're there for. Below that, you've got a oven / grill, which again, I don't even feel like I need to show you, but it's just literally a case of pushing in and round to the right for the grill, pushing in and round to the left for the oven. Make sure that you leave the door open if you're using the grill, and that's it. So the fridge is the next thing, and just make sure there's nothing. Right, so you've got your TV aerial and TV aerial booster just there. The booster has got an on and off switch just there on the top left. And that's about it really. That's just what that's for. So on the other side here, there you go, you got your TV bracket just there. So if you did want to put a telly back in this van, obviously when people sell their vans, they tend to take the TVs and things with them because it's it's something you take with you. So if you do have a TV, it will probably fit on this little bracket here anyway. Anyway, so the fridge, really nice sized modern fridge in here. This is one of the newer style with the handle on the front there, as opposed to the push button at the top. So the way these fridges work, so there's a Dometic fridge. There will be a little sticker to tell you exactly what model it is. So that's an RMI 9435. It might sound a little bit sort of geeky, but if you ever get any issues with this particular fridge, you will need to know that number. So just thought I'd tell you that. So put that back on in a minute. So the way that you actually use this fridge, so you've got sort of 4 different ways that you can use it. So you've essentially got electric hookup, gas, 12 volt when the engine's running, and auto. So auto isn't actually a way of using the fridge as such, it's just that it automatically chooses one of these 3. So at the moment I'm parked up, I haven't got the hookup cable plugged into the van, the engine isn't running and I'm not driving, but I do have the gas on. So the only way I can use this fridge is gas, and because I've left it on automatic, it's chosen gas for me automatically. So if I just turn the fridge off for a sec, we can start from the beginning. What will happen when I turn this on, it'll select A, it will choose gas straight away, and it will light up. Okay, so you can leave it like that if you want to, and it should just flick over to whichever way it can do it all the time. If you don't want to do it that way, and you're a bit like me and you don't really trust it very much, then you can do it a different way. So if you click on any button here twice, it will switch over to one of the others. If I press that one there, it will start beeping at us like it did just then on the other one. This should start flashing red. There you go. So what happened there is I've chosen electric hookup, and it's realised that we don't have the hookup plugged in. So it's giving us a fault code. So at the moment, gas is the only way we can use this fridge. All right, so it's already lit up. It just, you know, it lights up by itself. But I just thought I'd explain to you that's the only way you can use this fridge if you haven't got the hookup cable plugged in and the engine's not running. If you don't have gas, but you do have the electric hookup plugged in, then obviously you would just use hookup. And if you had already pre-cooled the fridge on either one of the 2 here, the electric hookup or the gas, or if I explain that better, if you were going to go on holiday tomorrow morning, my advice to you would be either to cool the fridge down the night before on the mains electric or the gas, so whichever one you have. So that means that when you start the engine up in the morning to drive away, all you have to do is switch over to 12 volt here, and it'll stay cold for whilst you're driving. And the reason I say that is that the 12 volt here isn't powerful enough on any motorhome fridge to get the fridge cold by itself. So you have to pre-cool it either via the 240 volt, the hookup, or the gas, and then switch over to this one just for when you're driving. All right, so I'll turn that off for now. Once you turn that off, all the lights inside will go off as well. We'll get onto the boiler bits in a minute, but the bathroom is right behind us now. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much to show again in here, apart from the fact that you've got a bit of storage up here. This is important to show you. I didn't realise this was in here. So this is your, essentially, because you've got a wet central heating system, the Aldi heating is a wet central heating. So it's like a household boiler where it gets radiators hot in order to heat the van up. And all these radiators sit down in these little vents here, as you can see in there, the little fins. So the Aldi heating essentially heats up that water, or the coolant is what it is, pumps it around through to any of these little sort of radiators. Now, it's really important that you keep your eye on this little reservoir in here. So you don't have to do anything with it, but this is the coolant that gets pumped around to all the radiators in here. All right, so if this goes below this little minimum line, you're probably going to need to fill it up with something. It's basically just engine coolant, or not any engine coolant, it's a specific one. But yeah, so just basically get in touch with someone if that does happen. But that's the coolant, the water that pumps around the radiators, that's the reservoir for that. So that will get hot if it's in use and you're being, you know, if you've got the heating on, it will be hot in there. So just bear that in mind. But that is what that is, if you were wondering. The toilet, you've got a switch just here, a little blue button, which pumps around your fresh water, your flush fluid around, and then you pull on this here to flush it into the cassette, just like that, and then we close it back. So that's your toilet. This here, by the way, is a radiator, one of your Audi heating radiators. You've got the exact same tap just there as you do in the kitchen, so I don't need to show you how that works. The only thing I will point out is that you've obviously got the cool little shower compartment there. So you know, basically pull that over, and then you've got the shower room here with this. You've got this little curtain here which comes across and meets up here. So yeah, it's just a nice idea. They've been doing that sort of thing for a long time, but that's where the shower is, behind this little unit. So pull that back over and then make sure you're locked over again there. Light switch, by the way, is just there. Right, so what am I going to show you next? So down here we've got, this essentially is all to do with your boiler, and that's so that, you know, your hot water and your heating all done from the same system. So what I'll show you first, this one isn't related to it, this one's just your lights back there. So what you've got is this one here. I don't want you to get too confused with it, because I did. So this one here, I knew what this one was. This is just a tank heater. So if you didn't want your tank to sort of freeze up in the winter, you can leave the tank heater on. It's just basically just to keep it warm enough not to freeze. And the one at the bottom is the pump for the water around to the radiators. So saying that, if I open this up, when I press this button, the bottom orange one, you may or may not be able to see it start to almost bubble a little bit. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. No, not so much on this one. Well, anyway, so if I just explain, so I actually had to look in the manual here, because you've got all the original paperwork here for it. I had a little look in the appliances thing, because I hadn't actually seen this little dial before. I certainly haven't seen that sign before. But there you go. So operating switch for auxiliary circulating pump. So all the time you've got your heating on, which again I'll show you how to do in a minute from this system here. All the time that you've got that on, if you want the water to be pumping around to the radiators, which you do, you need to have that one there switched on. All right, so it's just basically an extra pump to pump the water around to the radiators, from what I can gather there. All right, so that is all that is. Just thought I'd point that out to you. So the actual Audi heating system screen is really simple to use, but it can take a little bit of getting used to. It's easier to use, but it's not always simple. So let me just get down a step there. It's just a bit awkward to sit and show you at the same time. Right, so you've got the made on and off switch just here. And all you've got going on basically is you've got something telling you what the temperature is. All right, so that's the main screen there. That's basically not telling you anything at all. Certainly nothing that you need to know. When you click on menu, that's when you start to see things that you actually might want to know. You've got the temperature that you want the Audi heating system to get to at the top, so you can adjust that to whatever you want. Now obviously, because outside, if I click on that again, or inside, sorry, it reckons it's 26 degrees. So wherever the little thermostat is for this, it's probably just above the door. Wherever the thermostat is for this, it's sensing that it's 26 degrees. So if I actually want the heating to, I mean, obviously, you know, it's 26 degrees, so you're not going to want the heating on. But point is, you would have to go over 26 degrees in order to get the heating to actually come on. So if we look there now, we've got this other little symbol on here telling us that the heating has come to life. Okay, so at this point here, I would turn the auxiliary pump on, and that will start pumping around the water to the radiators. All right, but saying that, I absolutely do not want the heating on, sorry, at all, because it's really hot in here. So turn that down to 20, because that's a bit more of a realistic number to try and get the van to anyway. So that's the heating at the top. So you essentially just turn it on or off just by turning the number up there, just like a thermostat at home. All right, the next one down is your hot water, and you've basically got off, 1 and 2. All right, or on the older systems it would say off, hot and boost. All right, so essentially what that is just, you know, telling the boiler how quickly do you want this hot water to come through, because, you know, you just get 2 choices. All right, so for the time being, I'm just going to leave that on 1 there because I don't really need it to be very, very hot. So that's how you actually select or tell the boiler what to do. All right, so heating at the top, hot water, 1 below that. You've then got, at the very bottom, you've got a gas symbol there. So if I turn this off, currently now, the boiler isn't going to be lit up or doing anything at all. Because I haven't got this little gas symbol switched on, and I've got the electric symbol off as well, the boiler hasn't actually got any energy to use. All right, so it works on either the gas or the mains electric. So obviously, because I haven't got the electric plugged in, it won't work. But if you did have the electric hookup plugged in, you can select 1, 2, or 3 kilowatt to do whatever you tell the boiler to do up here, whether it be heating or hot water. All right. My recommendation to you would always be, when it comes to the 240 volt electric, 3 kilowatt is far too much. If you imagine you were plugged into a campsite hookup post and the hookup post was rated to 13 amps like most plugs are. If you turn this heating system on to 3 kilowatt, you'll immediately start drawing around 11 or 12 amps, which is like ridiculous. So it means that if you had that on there going full blast, as soon as you turn this fridge on the mains, which draws about 1 amp, you're going to trip the post outside. So it just doesn't make any sense. So in my opinion, stick to 1 or 2. 1, in all honesty, is going to do you fine. It's not, you know, you're unlikely to think, oh god, that's taken forever. But if you do, just use 2. I just wouldn't. You can do what you like obviously with it, but I wouldn't recommend 3 kilowatts ever, really. And if you don't have the electric plugged in, you can just use the gas for everything. So if I just give you an example, because sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming, all that sort of information at once. If I give you an example, if we imagine this is 16 degrees, right? We ignore the fact that it's actually 26 degrees. Say that's 16 degrees. I would then select this temperature here, 20, because I'd think, all right, it's a bit cold outside. I'm going to put the heating on inside the van. So I've selected 20 degrees and I wanted to do it on the gas. So I select gas down here and illuminate that to be green. So straight away then, you've got the gas on and the van will be heating up to 20 degrees. All right, another one, if we go back to the main menu again. If I didn't want the heating on, so relevant more so for today, I don't want the heating on, but I still want hot water because I want to shower or whatever. Come in here and select either 1 or 2 for the hot water. And then again, I've only got the gas, so I'll select gas, and that's it. The boiler's going to light up any second now. And that's it. You'll have the hot water at the taps after about 20 minutes, half an hour. You know, in fact, I'm pretty confident that, I mean, I've had it on the hot water for about, well, since the start of this video. So if I just check it now, just wait a second. I know obviously you can't feel this, but I will be honest. Yeah, I mean, that is actually really hot. I can't leave my finger under that. So, I mean, what's that been? 38 minutes. So around half an hour, and you'll have hot water coming through to your taps. Right, so always good thing to see that you've got the original manual here. Let me just get back there. So previous owner at some point has gone through this, read it, and sort of written, you know, underlined certain things. So you can have a little look through there and, you know, see what's going on with it. You can, if you do get any problems, obviously we're at the end of the phone for any questions at all. But, you know, if you can sort it out yourself, sometimes it's nicer to do it that way for yourself, really. You know, if you're away, if you can just quickly sort something, then that's great. So, all the paperwork's there. Audi heating system stuff is all just there. I've shown you the fridge, cooker. So, last thing I tend to show is basically just a quick run through what you would sort of do in the case of packing the van up and leaving. So, again, imagine if you've been at a campsite. All you need to do really is make sure that all of your windows are down and your skylights are down and locked. My advice would be, don't drive with these across. And the reason I say that is more so for people that do it all the time. Same goes for if you, I also wouldn't recommend leaving these up like this all the time. Now I know obviously at night, you know, that's the whole point of them, you know, you're going to do that, but you know, if you're going to leave it in storage, please just leave these down, because they work on tension. I can guarantee you, if you leave one of those up for, you know, a month or 2 months or something, when you come back to it, there'll be no tension in it anymore. All right, so as best you can, leave them all in the open position, like this one here, that should be open. So that's just a little tip anyway. Yeah, make sure your windows are shut, fully locked over like that. You don't want any of them flying off on the motorway, because they are not cheap to replace. Obviously make sure the bed is in the upright position. That is really, really important. And just make sure that all your cables are in, you know, hookup cables are out, gas is switched off. That's about it really, just making sure everything's stable and secure. So I will end the video there. I think that's about all I can show you on it, to be fair. Sorry it's been a bit of a long one, but yeah, so I think I covered everything. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.